There's no more obnoxious genre to me on the internet than like men complaining about how women aren't nice enough to them. I just
I
want to
don't live
like,
in that internet space,
oh,
but
I just want to
share with me.
grab them through the phone and be like, maybe start in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like you cannot blame women, especially straight women. Like I see like I watch all this like straight life unfold on the internet. And it's like women being like, here's a horrific story about what happened last night when I met a man for drinks. And then the next thing is a guy being like, so I asked her to just get in my car. And she was like, no, what a bitch. And you're like, go to the last video. You don't know
Yeah.
how that ends most of the time. Just because you were not going to axe murder her doesn't mean that it wasn't a rational fear for her to have, you know? Before we dive into today's episode, we want to make it clear that the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The information, discussions, and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and contributors should not be interpreted as medical, health, or professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, nothing discussed here should be taken as a substitute for professional consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any health-related concerns, we strongly encourage you to consult a qualified healthcare provider. Please verify any facts or claims presented here independently, as we make no guarantees regarding the accuracy or completeness of the information shared. Your decisions regarding health and wellness should always be made in consultation with a licensed medical professional who understands your individual circumstances. By listening to this podcast, you agree that neither the hosts nor any guests can be held liable for any decisions you make based on the information provided. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hi,
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about today.
Me too. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Say Something Serious. Thank you for listening again. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our belief systems and our thoughts and how they can shape our lives and shift our lives if we are connected to them, aware of them, and in a good relationship with our thinking styles.
Awesome. I'm so excited about this. The reason this idea came to us, I think, is because I was talking to Mindy and I made some should statements. And Mindy was like, what do you mean should? What do you mean should? And we started to talk about that word and how it sort of can signal in you that you are making statements as if you have some core belief that you're acting out. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that circumstance, when you start to pick things apart, you can get down to, oh, this belief might not even be mine. It's something that I've been carrying. Maybe I was taught this when I was in kindergarten, or maybe I was taught this in my family of origin or through friends or friends' parents. Over the years, right, we're interacting with all of these different systems and we're absorbing the beliefs and the thoughts of those around us that we're exposed to. And when we're young, we aren't thinking critically yet. As you get older, you can start to pay attention to like, why am I thinking I should do this? Is this something I want to do? Or is this something that I just am carrying that was kind of passed down to me over the years?
Yeah, it's definitely a shame word that I use a lot.
Mhm.
Like if I'm feeling in shame and I'm feeling like I have failed in some way, it's like a list of shoulds often that are my narrative, I think.
Right. I should have got that laundry finished. I should have went to the gym today. It's like it could be like a little form of like self-punishment, like making yourself feel bad. And, sometimes if you set a goal and you should have done something, that's okay. But I think, again, we can like bring in that self-compassion piece. Oh, I really wanted to do this and I didn't get to it. I can do it tomorrow. It's a
Right.
little bit of a kinder way of interacting with yourself.
I think that all types of people from all types of backgrounds have like a set of um, shoulds they get from society. I know like women often feel like they should be married or they should have children. or they should go to college, or they should be working if they're stay-at-home moms, or they should be happy, or they should be more productive. Like there's a lot of social pressure on women that gets internalized as the shoulds.
Right. Should be a great caretaker, should be like generous and selfless. Like some of these are actually damaging to us, right? Over time. I was listening to something and somebody was saying like, oh, like she's the best person, should give you the shirt off her back. Like, is that good? Like she needs a shirt.
I
She
know.
needs her shirt. She shouldn't be giving everything away to everybody else. But that might just be something that was really highly reinforced as a child. Like if you help others and you do for others and you give to others and you care for others, you're a good person. You should do that. And so like there is a healthy component to shoulds. Like of course we should care for others and be good people, but there's something missing there, which is you should take care of yourself.
Yeah, and you
You
have to make
factor
sure that's in
into this
balance.
equation, right? Like there are some positive things about thinking you should be a good person and be kind. And you can do that while also creating some type of healthy boundary, creating some type of deep understanding of what you need for yourself in order to be filled up enough to be a giver, to be a caretaker.
I had a dope mentor when I was a little girl. Um, Karen McLennan. Shout out to Karen McLennan.
Oh,
And one day I couldn't have been maybe 11, 12 years old. And I was at her house, and I think I was in her daughter's room or something. She had grown daughters. And I picked up The Giving Tree, the book, The Giving Tree.
mm-mm.
And she was like a feminist icon. And she immediately just told me why she thinks The Giving Tree is like the most toxic book ever written. Like the children just take and take and take until there's nothing left of the tree. And instilling that in a value, as a value in women specifically, she was like, is not a good thing. You should not cut down someone's tree to build your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I always thought about that. And I think that that's true. There is this socialization that happens, especially with women, where it's like if I'm Irish Catholic, like the women, my ancestors are all, self martyred, like how much you can give, how much you're suffering for your for your life is like a big part of the female identity
I
in
don't know.
Irish Catholic culture.
I don't know. I don't know about suffering. I feel like every like Irish woman that I know who is doing so much is doing it with a smile.
Mm.
Like I don't see suffering. I don't.
Oh,
But maybe
maybe,
like
I
over
mean, you
time they've learned to
actually
care
interact
for
with a lot
themselves.
of like Irish
You know.
Catholics who are in Ireland. I'm talking about like Boston Irish
Mm,
Catholic American culture. Like the women are, it's just, we're just like long and suffering. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like,
okay.
everybody's grandma has like 8 nephews living with them, and they're all alcoholics and drug addicts, and like she just couldn't give enough. They just can't, and everybody looks at her, well, Nana's a saint. It's like somebody needs to protect Nana. Like this is
Yeah, well,
wrong.
you know what? That's the thing about that book, The Giving Tree, is like the tree is so happy to give everything. The tree is fulfilled by giving everything to you, right? Like what a message.
Yeah,
No,
right.
you have to take care of yourself and start to pay attention to what are the things that I think I should be doing, and are they in some way maybe not the most healthy and helpful way to relate to myself and live out this one chance that I have at life,
Yeah.
you know?
I think a lot of Karen culture, as like a white woman looking at other white women, is like this intense anger that they come to know when they see people not living the shoulds after they sacrifice their lives for them. Like on a deep
So
psychological level,
I'm hearing you say maybe like some resentment, which might come out looking like anger, but is actually based in envy,
Yes.
right?
Like I feel a lot like when older white women seem grumpy at me for like my general non-compliance with the patriarchy, I always like look at them with this empathy, like I know. Like you
Right.
thought
They
you
lived
had
through a
to.
lot. Yeah, no, they,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Like you gave up your life. You got married to that asshole. You had all those kids. Like you suffered for all of it. And I'm saying like I'm not gonna do it. And you're that like makes you crazy because it almost like never occurred to a lot of these women that they had a choice. Like
I
my
think
mom,
there
when
was,
I talked to her about like why you got married at 25, you had two kids by 29, like when I was 29, I was like, am I ready for a dog? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But she was like, we
well,
didn't have
like,
a choice.
right. That is like a beautiful opportunity that we had. We have a lot more freedom to make these choices, and society is like shifting in a way that is allowing that to happen, even though there's plenty of resistance everywhere you go, I'm sure. But there is more opportunity for us to challenge the way we live our lives. And that wasn't really a safe thing to do. Like when our parents were coming of age, they lived by the shoulds because they kind of had to, and there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to do something different.
Yeah. And if you ask me, it is primarily tied to the economic advancement of women. Like, in order to have a good life, to have a house, to have a car, to feel secure in middle class society in America, like you really had to be partnered. And now, as women gain more and more access to higher education and make more and more money, you can access a lot of that security on your own, which I think is what's, fueling the backlash to feminism that we're kind of experiencing right now, where
Mm-hmm.
they want to take women back because there are too many of them opting out of these shoulds. It's literally like creating a population crisis,
Yeah, right.
which is wild to think about. Like, I know, I do think there are people with like deeply held, sincere beliefs, religious beliefs around abortion. But when
Mm-hmm.
I think about like why the government is trying to mandate birth, like I tie it very much to the population crisis. Like we're not replenishing our population
Oh,
fast
that's
enough.
interesting. I've never ever thought about it like that.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
Yeah, we're not making enough people to service our national debt.
Well, can we start to think about how we take care of the people that are here now? You know,
Right.
I mean,
But part of that is,
I don't want to go that way.
like
But like,
boomers, right? Boomers, they're named for that because there were so many of them. They were
yeah,
like the after the war generation. There's like a lot of boomers. And a lot of our government is a pay it forward system. So, like, people working now are paying the Social Security and Medicare of the people that are retiring. And it's actually like a serious economic issue that
right.
there's more of them than there is of us. That like we need enough people working to pay those benefits. And if we're not making more children, we're gonna have a problem.
Well, that's interesting. I'm just thinking about like how AI and technology is going to impact that also, right? Like less jobs for humans. Just a thought. Anyway,
Yeah, oh yeah. Like we should do a whole thing on like dystopian AI futures that are possible. I it could also help them. Like if AI
yeah,
manages to make consumer goods really really cheap, we could do more with less production, and then maybe, if it was cheaper to house and treat and care for our elderly, that we wouldn't need as much money to do that. But as
yeah.
of right now, like we've committed to it and we literally don't have the population. We could also let people immigrate, but we don't want to do that apparently. So I think that is where that's why they're saying, the government, you should have more babies. Like they need to incentivize it for economic reasons.
Right. So just like another example of how should is playing into our life. Like that's in our
At
consciousness.
every level.
And I hadn't even thought about that. Right. Like it's these shoulds are coming from so many different places.
Yeah.
I was in a classroom at one point in my career and like preschool or something. And I kept hearing the teacher say, like, you should say you're sorry. You should do this. And, it was like a lot at this like one particular child. And like, everything in my body was like, oh, like, what do I do? Right. Like this kid, I don't even know what happened, but it was so intense, the emotion that she was like communicating with about what he should be doing. And I don't know, the whole story, but I just thought like, oh my gosh, all of these kids are hearing probably constantly like, you should be doing this, rather than saying like, hey, what happened? What were you feeling in that moment? Is there a better way we can communicate with our friends and the people that we care about? Right? Just like, you should do this. But like saying I'm sorry actually doesn't fix the problem. It's not bad to take accountability. Sure. Right? Like learning to apologize and communicate when you've hurt someone, that's important. But does a 3-year-old have that capacity? No, not really. But you can show them another way to relate that's helpful. But like just another, little example of like what we're pulling in, what we're starting to believe. And then this kid might grow up and say like, well, I said I'm sorry. Doesn't that fix it? And then you're married to him.
Right. Then it's some other woman's problem.
Right. I'm just, like
100%.
they come with us. They grow with us, these beliefs.
Yeah. I think there's a shift happening in, I'm the expert on heterosexual parenting as a childless lesbian, but I do observe a shift happening where I think in our generation, it was considered like kind of pathetic to explain things to your children. Like we were very much the because I said so generation, right? And I think newer parents, you see them being like, not you shouldn't hit somebody, but like getting down to their level and saying like, when you hit somebody, it hurts them and then they feel sad and we don't want people to feel sad, and like go like bothering to do that extra mile, which I do think is going to produce like more conscious people.
Yeah, and also like a little practice and empathy for them might be like, how would you feel if somebody hit you? Like really small question, and then that opens them up to a little bit of empathy building, which takes time, right? Like toddlers not there yet.
Yeah.
I want that. Like, give me it. I'm gonna snatch it. But over time, if you practice these little things with them, they will open up to understanding themselves better and understanding their relationship with others in a
Yeah.
better way.
Another way that I see that play out is women teaching their daughters bodily autonomy with the shoulds. Like, you don't have to, that whole like, you should hug and kiss your uncle. And you know what I mean? Like,
I think that's working its way out. That
yeah.
whole mindset of like, I'm not going to make my kid hug someone they don't really know or don't want to hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's up to the adult in that scenario to become a safe enough person for that child that they want to hug them.
Yes.
And if you haven't built that relationship, like the go kiss your uncle thing, like, no, she doesn't have to.
Right. They're starting to get a sense of, how do I want to relate to the world? How do I want to relate to others? Instead of us just telling them, right? And that can also swing. There's like this whole like pendulum parenting thing that's happening, I feel like, with like being one way and going so far in the other direction. Like there are parents who are like, can I change your diaper? Like, that doesn't work. Not if you have a kid like mine. You can change your diaper now. Like that has to happen. But there is some of that too. But like the goal is to let them find within themselves a sense of comfort with how they want to interact with others, and let them start to trust themselves, so that when they get themselves into a situation in college where it's like, oh, this doesn't feel right, I'm going to trust that. Let me get out of here. right?
Right.
Not like, oh, I have to be here, or I should be here, or I should be kind and nice. No, this doesn't feel right. I know this feeling. I don't want to be here. I'm out.
Yes. I think a lot of women have been really hurt because they felt like they needed to be nice or they needed to be accommodating. And I think we're trying to strike a balance with young girls as we like parent them or mentor them, where we are real with them about how dangerous the world can be and that they need to have boundaries, but also somehow instilling a good personality in them.
And a general sense of safety,
Yeah.
right, in the world, which is hard because we are in that place where it's like we need them to know a little bit that you can't trust everyone. And we also want them to go out into the world feeling safe and confident that they can handle what comes their way. And but that's why I think like instilling that sense of I know who I want to communicate with, I know how I want to. Now that doesn't mean they can be like disrespectful, like mean people. We're still teaching them manners and kindness, but with a boundary. Like
Yeah.
there's a way to be kind and also you don't have to be friends with that person. There's a way to
Yeah.
be kind and also you don't want to hug that person. No, thank you. Right? Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
Like you were saying, like developing in them a trust in their own gut. Like you were saying, like I recognize this feeling, I don't like this feeling, and I'm allowed to trust this feeling
mhm.
is maybe something that I don't think all millennial women had. Like we felt like, oh, we feel weird, but we should probably stick it out because we don't want to make a scene or we don't want to be difficult or we don't want to be seen like a bitch.
We
And
don't want to make
so,
anybody uncomfortable or anybody not like me, right? Because we all want to be likable.
right. I think you and I were less so like we got over that fast, but I think that's because we were hurt younger.
I don't know that I got over that fast. I think, I guess in some
In
ways.
some ways.
You
In
laugh
some
because
ways.
I know, like, I feel like sometimes you know me better than I know me, like you see it from the
Yeah.
outside a little bit different. But I always think like it's kind of taken me longer to not care that much about if people like me or not. Because
I
like
think
being
it
nice and being
depends.
sweet and being likable was very important in my childhood. Pleasant,
Yes.
So
I
like,
remember being teenagers and being on the beach with you.
oh yeah,
And when creepy men would come up to talk to us, you would be like, sir, no. This isn't, you need to walk away. This is not happening. And I would
yeah.
be like, oh my God, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I did end up like you when I grew up. But you were my
Fun.
inspiration for
That's
having
true. There,
strong
there were
boundaries
definitely
with
times
creepy
that I was
men.
like, oh, absolutely not. No. And then
No,
sometimes that
no.
was like too much in that direction where like anyone, I'd be like, no, no, to people probably, I'm sure that were fine, but I was maybe a little on high alert.
I know. I
Trying
can't
to find the
stand
balance.
that.
Always trying to find the balance.
There's no more obnoxious genre to me on the internet than like men complaining about how women aren't nice enough to them. I just want
I
to
don't live
like,
in that internet space,
oh,
but
I just want to
share with me.
grab them through the phone and be like, maybe start in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like you cannot blame women, especially straight women. Like I see like I watch all this like straight life unfold on the internet. And it's like women being like, here's a horrific story about what happened last night when I met a man for drinks. And then the next thing is a guy being like, so I asked her to just get in my car. And she was like, no, what a bitch. And you're like, go to the last video. You don't know
Yeah.
how that ends most of the time. Just because you were not going to axe murder her doesn't mean that it wasn't a rational fear for her to have. You know,
Yeah.
I can't wait till we get to that point in human evolution where men are like, some of us are really dangerous.
Well, I think, for men who have like daughters or little sisters, they're maybe a little bit better at understanding that because all you have to say is like, what would you want your little sister to do in that situation? What would you want your daughter to do in that situation? And then that opens up their mind, right? That she should get in my car or she should be nicer to me can be expanded if you question it the right way.
Yeah.
There's always opportunity for expansion of your like mindset and
Yeah.
belief system.
I think I've seen a lot of men in my life grow over the last 5, 10 years.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, I think a lot of people want to pretend like Me Too failed because there was like such a PR movement to be like Me Too was a disaster. Like there's a group of people that really want us to believe that. But like I don't know, during that time, I had a lot of really meaningful conversations with men who were honestly shocked to like find out for the first time that like women they knew that worked with them were going through like horrific and creepy shit
Oh,
that they had no idea about. And they were genuinely like, oh my God, like Bob told you to suck his dick. You know what I mean? Like they were shocked. And that's comforting, right? Because it means that they were not involved and that they do find it shocking. But I've seen that growth
well,
in a lot of people.
sometimes it is like right when these things happen, you carry shame about it. There's another like belief that might be tied underneath this of like, oh, it was my fault or I put myself in that situation, right? We try to like kind of almost rationalize what happened. And there are some deep seated beliefs connected to that. Like, I think about the shame that people carry after something like that happens to them. And so then they don't share it. And then it seems like it's not really happening. But I don't know a whole lot of women who haven't had some like icky experience happen to them. And I can think of two in my teenage years when I was working that happened between, like I had an old man boss hit me with a fly swatter in the ass, like, and I was 15 or 16 at a job, you know, but I
Yeah.
didn't say anything because I was like, oh, like creepy, weird, right? But look, you said like I was empowered to say, stay away from me when we were hanging out at the beach. Maybe that was a year later. And I'm like, oh, hell no, you know,
Yeah.
and, and others, right? Other stories, but like stupid, small thing. But I probably should have said, like, hey, you can't do that. Or like
Yeah.
maybe told my mom, hey, this happened, right?
Yeah.
But
I
I
often
was just
feel
like,
like practice makes perfect on those things. Like the first time a guy was creepy to me in one specific way at work, I was probably like really like, I gotta go. But like the second time it happens, because you rehearse it in your head for so long,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
immediately like, don't say that to me. Or don't swat me in the ass. You know what I mean? But
right.
like that first time it happens, it's jarring.
Yeah. The second
And
time
I
it happened to me, I pushed my boss into like it was at a restaurant. There was like, the glass racks, they hold the glasses into like a wall of
mhm.
those. And then I left. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
I was still not 18, like what
Yeah.
the fuck?
I think it's like around 12 or 14 that I was talking to somebody recently about that. And I said, what do you think the age is that like women realize that, or little girls, or maybe it was you, little girls realize that like there's a creepy reason why we don't let them dress in belly shirts or, you know what I mean? And like a
So
sad
hard.
reason. And it's probably like 12 or 14 when men start to like make really inappropriate, hopefully it's that late, but that like girls realize like, oh, that man doesn't think I'm cute. That's a different kind of gaze, you know?
Oh my God. It's so hard. And like having that conversation over time as the years go on looks different from year to year, you know, with young
Yeah.
girls turning into young women. It's hard. And again,
Yeah.
it's like that balance of instilling like confidence and safety and trust in themselves. And also knowing like if you get the ick, trust that, get out.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think being really explicit. I've I don't know if that's harder for moms, but like with my little sister, I've been like very explicit like, if a grown man wants to hang out with you, he is a loser. That is a loser person. Like, like 22-year-olds are also beautiful. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have something over on him. So if they are looking at him and being like, no, thank you, and then he's hitting on a 14 or a 15-year-old, that means that like he's no good.
Right,
You're
which is
not
what
like
was
extra
happening in our
mature.
world, right?
Right.
That was definitely
Oh,
happening
yeah.
in our world.
And
Like,
you do. At the
oh.
time, you think, I'm just cooler than other girls.
And it's
I
actually like,
just,
no one his age wants to hang out with him because he sucks.
yeah, because he's a weirdo.
Yeah.
And he wants women that are be. I was
Mm-hmm.
telling my mom this the other day, and it blew her away that, like, the reason we keep sexualizing younger and younger people is like a direct backlash to the feminist movement in the 70s. She was like, you need to tell everybody that, Erin. I'm like, it's pretty well known feminist theory, but like, we used to think women were sexy, like grown women, like Marilyn Monroe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the feminist movement happened, men were so um, unwilling to get on board with it that instead of trying to meet women where they were, they decided, like, oh, we're just going to then desexualize you and sexualize children. Because a compliant woman is 15, 14, 17 years old. And we got to get to her before she turns into one of you.
Okay. I
And
feel like
that's
this
why,
is
like,
a really big generalization over generalization. And I want to be careful of that because I don't think everyone is like that. I hear what you're saying.
well, I mean, like the society, like Britney Spears,
Right. Yes.
Carpenter, like all of this, like taking grown women and like putting them in pigtails and school uniforms and stuff. Like this is all on purpose to like sexualize the young.
Right. Well, like what happened to Britney? She was a baby. Yeah.
Right.
And who else? There was another famous actress who came out. I think Brooke Shields. Like a lot of women are
Brooke
coming out and
Shields.
saying, like, look at what happened to me when I was not even 18 yet. Like that's so creepy. And at that age, I did not have the skills to say, like, this feels weird. If
Right.
you just even watching like back clips from the 90s, right? Like how women were interviewed and spoken to, and young ladies, it's wild. But I don't want to overgeneralize and say like all men, it's like one of those things that I feel like can be alienating. And even though it is like a societal issue, right? The frame shifted towards younger. I get what you're saying. I just want to be careful.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm always thinking.
I'm not accusing all men of that. Like I think one of the best signs when you meet a man is if the women that he's attracted to are adults. Right? Like if I meet a 50-year-old man who thinks Sabrina Carpenter is the hottest thing walking, I'm like, okay. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like at least she's 21.
Too. Right, she's young. She's doing something too, though, by like saying, like, I'm going to stand in my power and be however I want to be. I know, but like, let her be, let her do it, let her do it. I don't know. I mean, at least she was over 18 when she started dressing like that, right? I don't really know.
Right. I mean, there's, if anybody wants to look it up, there's like a long feminist theory on this that's like quite disturbing. It starts with Brooke Shields in the 70s. I think she was in a movie called like The Islands or something when she was 14, and they put her on the cover of Vogue as like a sexy 14-year-old. And they like, they can trace it back to there as to why we keep asking our movie stars and pop stars to look younger and younger and younger.
Mm-hmm.
And making that the beauty standard. And it's a should. We should be young forever.
Right.
Is a big should. We were talking about Bridget Jones, right? Have we talked about this?
I don't know if we talked about it on here.
So, what's her name?
Renee Zellweger.
Oh, Renee Zellweger, when she came out with the last Bridget Jones movie, was like, she looked very different. And she clearly like maybe had some fillers or something, but like she looked different. And everybody was like on the internet, like, she looks so weird. Like, what is wrong with her face? What's going on there? And she came out and was just like, you guys are so used to women in Hollywood doing procedure after procedure and injection after injection to make sure they never look older than 25, that what you're reacting to is seeing what a 47-year-old person looks like. Like, you
Right.
are
We were all like, what
horrified.
happened? She looks so different. Oh, she aged.
She aged. Right.
She aged.
Her eyes sunk in a little, her lips got thinner. Like, everything that happens when you get older happened to her because she didn't intervene. And it was such a mirror to all of us that, like, I was the same. I was like, what happened
Yeah,
to
like, well,
her?
something is really different, right?
Right. And it's like, she's 20 years older is what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we're not used to letting women do that. J-Lo still looks like 26 years old.
Yeah. I am just like appalled at the fact. I mean, we watched Bridget Jones 2 weeks ago together, right? And like, I just kept getting so angry every like minute that I watched it longer and longer, that when I was a young woman, young girl watching this movie, right? Teenager, and her weight being a like primary issue in that movie. I don't know if any, like the original Bridget Jones, that was a primary issue of her character, was that like she was 135 pounds. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, how is that realistic? And also, like, that's what
And
I
that was
weigh.
her fat,
So
for the
that
record. Like,
right,
that was, she believed she was fat
that
at 132 pounds.
right. Like, it's a struggle, and I have to get rid of this, and like, hate my body and hate myself, and like that's what we were consuming as teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it is enraging, honestly.
It's crazy. And I
So
think it's coming back.
should be. Oh,
Thin.
yeah.
Should be thin, should be beautiful, should be quiet.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, oh, well, this is what the Barbie movie is about, right? At the same time, you should be successful and you should be modest and you should be like, am I supposed to be a supermodel or am I supposed to be modest? I need clarification on the instructions. And that's how they keep women controlled, is with all these like shoulds that are conflicting with one another. Should be assertive but not bossy. You should be pretty but not desirable. Like,
Yeah, I think, the purpose of this episode is to just like pull into your awareness how often that type of thought pattern is playing out in your mind, and how it affects you emotionally, and how it affects your actions and your inner dialogue with yourself. And so just paying attention, like, oh, I said a should thing. Like, do I really believe that? Is there more? Can I relate to this differently?
should we let's talk about one that's like personal.
A should? Let's do it.
Do you
I
have one
have
or you?
I have one, because I actually remember we were going to like recap a little bit on the tarot episode from last week, where you read me and you were like, there's this like trying to balance something, but there's something you have to put down, right? And I think I've thought so much. This is why tarot is so helpful for me when we do it together, because it's like a reflection of my inner world. Like, what am I trying to work through? And it just brings to my awareness, like, okay, there is this pattern. There's this thing that I'm doing. What is it? Like, what is holding me back, or what can I do to propel me forward? But what I came to was that I have this tendency and this belief that I should solve all my problems on my own and not ask for help. So that way, when I go to people to tell them what I want to do or what my plan is, I know already and I'm sure. But what I realized through like a lot of reflection after that tarot episode is, number one, that is cutting other people in my life out of an opportunity to connect with me and help me in some way that they can. And it's keeping me stuck in this like hyper independence that is not necessary because I'm in a really safe life with amazing friendships, an amazing husband, amazing family. I have so many resources. Like, why would I cut myself short because I think I have to do it all on my own? So I think what that was about really was like putting down that mentality of figuring everything out before I present it. And I know we talked about like having a conversation. And so I did. And it's so wild, like how having that conversation opened up actually a great opportunity for me because now, right, you and me and like two other women that we have met are going to do this day retreat. And I was going to use my own office space and I was trying to figure out how to do it. But then, like, pulling Sean into the conversation a little bit, he's like, oh, why don't you use the office like next door? It's bigger, right? You have this other space. But I could have just like stayed in my lane and been stubborn and wanted to figure it all out and not be open. And now, how like softening that should has opened up another opportunity for me. Like, what a what like a small shift can make a big change, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And I like what you said about it's giving other people an opportunity to love you too. Like we all want to find ways to love and appreciate each other. And when you're open about your needs, that gives the people in your life an opportunity to express that love for you in whatever way they can, right? Like the never asking for help thing. Um, we have a friend that struggles with that a lot, and one day when we were working through what her core belief was that was holding her back, um, from asking. It was that she believed that if somebody asks you for something, you should always say yes.
Mm,
And because of that, she never wanted to ask, she never asked anybody for anything that she didn't absolutely need. Do you know what I mean? Because she didn't want to put that kind of pressure on people for easy things because she felt like they didn't have a choice because she doesn't feel like she has a choice to say no.
wow.
And I had to be like, I don't feel that way. Like, if you call me up and say, can I borrow your truck on Sunday? And I'm using my truck, I'm just gonna be like, no, sorry, I'm using it on Sunday. How about Monday? I don't feel like I have to say yes to you because you asked me something, but I always want you to ask me if I could help,
Mhm.
right? Like, releasing yourself from the idea that you have to say yes also releases other people from that, right? Like Sean
Mm.
didn't have to help with the secondary location, but he could and he wants to
Right. And remember
support and
that
love
night
you
we
in
had
that
that
way.
conversation. He's like, well, how else can I help? Like, what else do you need? What else can we do? And it's like, wow, like I could have just held on to this and not said, like, I'm trying to figure something out. But just by saying that, like, giving someone the opportunity to show up for you, we want to care for each other. We want to help each other. We want to love each other and do nice things. And then for this person, I don't know who you're talking about. I feel like, do I even know this person?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I know. Anyway, um, it's also like you demonstrating for that person. You can ask me, and I might say yes, or I might say maybe another time, or I might like not respond exactly as you want. It's also empowering to them to see that, like you're modeling something for them. Like, oh, I'm also allowed to like set some type of boundary around like how much I'm giving everyone else, or like not offer up in the way that is inconvenient for me, but like find another way. It's not like an all or nothing situation when someone you love asks you for advice or support or help. There can always be something in the middle and sometimes you can't. It's
Yeah.
beautiful modeling for that person too.
I think it depends on what you believe and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. Like there's this conversation happening about have boundaries ruined relationships and friendships? And I
Mm,
think it may be in some areas. Like people might not be as giving or as compassionate as maybe they once were to like strangers or acquaintances. But like your friends and your family, they want to show up for you. That's one of the most rewarding things in our life is when we get to give to those that we love. And so like calling your best friend and being like, my husband got us tickets to X, Y, and Z on Thursday. Like, can you babysit? Like, people actually like getting those calls. If you're like constantly a taker, then that's a personality problem and that person needs to probably be out of your life. That's the boundary.
Right.
But like when it's someone that does for like most relationships are reciprocal, right? Like how much do you do for Sean that like he feels like I feel with my partner? How could I ever repay you for all of the beauty that you give me and bring to my life, right? And when somebody gives you that opportunity, you feel good. You're like, oh, I got to do something for this person that does so much for me. And
we need
it's,
each other, and we need to be needed also by the people we're in relationship with. And so to feel needed and to feel helpful and feel that it is reciprocal going both ways and there's like a flow to it it's the most beautiful thing. And we have to be aware of like offering up that opportunity to the people we love. Or I have to. I guess that's what I came to after that episode. I was like, wow, like I carry a lot internally and don't even think to ask for help because of the belief like I have to figure this out. Or maybe I'm not smart enough. Or maybe I'm not good enough, right? Like all the things that can come with that belief as well, being aware of what those things are. And the meaning that we make of the situations. It's not the situation that happens, it's the meaning we attach to it. Like if I take help, maybe I didn't do this on my own or something. But actually, if I take help, I'm expanding my opportunities and building and strengthening my relationships.
yeah. And I think what we're trying to get across is the should is the alert.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity when you hear yourself thinking or saying a should, like both you or a shouldn't in this case, both you and this other person believed that they shouldn't ask for help. And that was an invitation to look at their own belief system. And both of you came to that through totally different beliefs.
Right.
And that's the work. Like it's going to be totally personalized to you. So that's why you get to sit with yourself and go, why do I believe this?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. And like, is this helpful for me? Sometimes, maybe. But is it helpful for me right now? I don't think so. Could I soften it? Could I view it a different way? Could I approach this from a different perspective? It's like you said, that should is like a ping to pay attention and like expand your consciousness a little bit. Open up your reality. Like we all see life the way we are, right? We see life the way we are. We don't see life the way it is. There's always more perspective. There's always another way to look at something. And taking that as the opportunity to see it from a different lens and also pay attention to what your lens looks like and what might be clouding it.
Yeah. One good tip that you gave me once was if you change it to want and then add a because, is it still true? Like instead of I should take a shower, for example, you might say like, I want to take a shower because it'll be really nice to get into bed tonight and be all clean before I have to get up early tomorrow. Right? If you can add a want, replace should with want, and then add your because, and the sentence still makes sense, you can let that should pass.
Yeah.
Or reframe it as something that is coming from you and you're doing for yourself.
Yeah. And again, like not all shoulds are bad. So that's a good way. I don't actually remember telling you that, but thanks for the credit. That is a good way to like reflect. It's not always a bad thing to have a should. You know, a lot of our shoulds are helpful, but just being aware.
I'm gonna pull some cards and see if there's any.
Let's do it.
What do you think about creating new beliefs, like
Oh,
as
I
a
think
form of like manifestation.
I think it's a really, I don't want to get too much into like the language of like rewiring, right? Like that's kind of like the new thing is like we're going to rewire our brains and rewire our thoughts. But I do think creating a new alternative belief that you would like to believe is a really powerful way to kind of like overwrite those old automatic thoughts and beliefs that you have about yourself. So it's not just about like pulling it apart and what do I believe and why. There's also the rebuilding part of, well, if I know now that that's not actually true, what do I want to believe about myself? And how can I practice that? It is actually a part of EMDR, so I'm just going to throw that out there with a little laugh because
Always,
I always
always.
find a way to tie it in. But
Yeah.
it's also like, right, people talk about manifestation and creating, co-creating your life, right? I think building new beliefs about yourself is a huge part of all of those things. And so like same thing, different language to get there. More spiritual language, more mental health language, more whatever. Creating a new belief that you would like to believe about yourself that is helpful and feels true to you. You can practice through meditation. You can practice through just, again, that awareness when you have the should. Oh, wait, no, I have this other thing that I know to be true. You can pull that in. I have those automatic thoughts. They exist. That's okay. But I know I've done the work and I've looked in. I know this other thing is true. And I'm going to pull that into my consciousness more. There are plenty of ways to go about it. In EMDR, we use like a visualization and like a tapping or the bilateral eye movements, or sound, whatever you want to use, and almost imagine, like use your imagination to tap into that future state that you desire, that future belief you desire about yourself, and kind of like let it play out while you're using the bilateral stimulation, almost to like install that kind of, we call it like installing a future template, installing that belief about yourself.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
that's been fun.
used um, for years, still use it sometimes, is I would write down all the things that I wanted to believe and wanted to feel, and then turn those into mantras
Mm-hmm.
and then just say them out loud and try to feel them in the morning. So if it's like I want to feel like I'm good enough. I want to feel like I'm happy. I want to feel like I'm loved, whatever. Those would turn into mantras that I kept them like on the back page of my bullet journal. And when I picked up my bullet journal for the day, I would just go in the back and just sit there and be like, I'm enough. I am happy. I am competent. I am, anything that I was struggling with believing, I would just say 365 times. And then they would fall off the list because they would be, it's kind of the long, slow version of what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. If you don't go to EMDR, which we believe that you should, you can also do the long version, which is just literally reprogramming, like saying that to yourself enough and trying to visualize yourself believing it and feeling it. And it starts to become a part of your identity.
Yeah. Also, I don't remember who I heard say this. Someone like in the spiritual community was saying that they express gratitude for that um, belief about themselves or like for carrying that trait. Like, I think they said something like, I'm going to get it wrong, but expressing gratitude for it being so easy to feel confident, right? Like, I'm so grateful that it's so easy for me to feel confident, right? There's like
Ooh.
another layer that gratitude brings, like a heart feeling, right? And then the ease of it, like there are, you can layer on these little pieces. It might work for you, it might not. I don't know. But I remember hearing that, and I used that when I was running, when I was training for that half marathon a couple of years ago. And I didn't really train that hard, to be honest, but I visualized about it a lot. And when I was running, I would say to myself, wow, I'm so grateful that this is so easy for me. And every time it got hard, I would pull that in and it kept me going. It's like a little
Yeah.
little game I
That's
played
so
with
smart.
myself. Like I would start to struggle, like, oh, I am so grateful that this is so easy for me to get through this next mile. And just like push me a little further.
That's great.
I have to figure
I
out
do
how that.
half of that. Like when I really struggle to get things done, I recognize it's a belief that like everything is so hard. Like the laundry and getting out of bed and getting ready, when everything is so hard, when I feel myself in that energy, I will say to myself, like, this is easy. I'll just say, this is easy all day. This is easy. This is easy. But saying, I'm so grateful this is easy for me is like, it's like that, but more powerful. I'll definitely use that.
I love your "This is so hard" voice. That reminds me of Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Like the what's I don't even know her character, but like the
David.
yelling it.
Yeah. God. This is hard.
Yeah.
Everybody knows her. Let's see. Is there anything we wanted to cover that we didn't?
We didn't do our like thing of the week. Like our
My
good
thing of
thing.
the week was you, getting to see you
Me
in
too.
IRL this weekend.
That was so fun. Although staying up till 3 a.m. is not the thing for me. Do you not feel like it took you 2 days to recover?
Oh, it did. It did. I still,
Like that, and that was me drinking water. And I woke up like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But it's
I
just
know.
that
And
if
I
I
was
see you
drinking
in
wine.
person, I have to like squeeze every moment out, possibly, you know?
Yeah. It's still worth it. Even if it's exhausting, it's invigorating
Yes.
to get to see you in person. Mindy and I got together with these two lovely women that we are doing a retreat in Mount Vernon with. April, do you know the date?
April 12th.
April 12th, we're doing an amazing event. It's a full day of restorative yoga and like a group restorative yoga session with like
With Reiki.
two Reiki people going around and giving you Reiki in the group session.
Mhm.
And then we're doing breakout sessions where you get private tarot readings with me. And we have a friend, Janine, who is a medium, and she's going to do private mediumship readings
And
with
she's
people.
amazing. Yeah.
And then we're going to do a group past life regression and then do more readings. And we're going to do some like craft and manifestation activities. It's from 10 to 4. You can find us on social media to sign up. There's very limited space. So if you want to do it, definitely get involved now. You get restorative yoga, private Reiki, private tarot, private mediumship, and a group past life regression and lunch, which we will make sure is delicious because we are food girlies. We will not be serving you cucumbers. There will be some delicious snacks in there. I didn't mention Donna. Donna is the Reiki master who's going
And past
to
life
join us.
regression meditation instructor, which I am really, really looking forward to doing. Even though I know I'm a co-host, I'm definitely participating in that part because I've never done a past life regression and I hear so much about it. Like what an interesting way to get to know more about your soul, right?
Yeah. You and I do like so much work on the current life level.
Yeah.
But to be like, oh shit, I do that weird thing because 3 past lives ago, you know,
Yeah, I'm so
my
interested
house
to
burnt
see what
down or
comes up.
whatever. It's going to be so cool.
Well, you know, I have that thing about like water that Mo has.
Drowning.
Like I had that dream that Mo was like, "Oh yeah, I know that dream. I've been like," I'm like, "What are you talking about? You've had that dream? We were both in the same." It's so bizarre. Um, but I'm just, yeah, like I definitely believe there's some connection that carries on with us.
I've done a couple,
Oh, you
and
have.
I do feel like I carry them with me. They usually come out to me as like warnings. Warnings, sort of, about, like, for the most part, it hasn't been like irrational fears for me. It's been like, in this lifetime, we did this and we had these regrets. And like, you have an opportunity to do things differently, which is why I don't want you to forget this.
Okay. I'm open to
Just
it. I mean, I can't wait. I'm really excited to try that. So,
awesome. I'm so excited.
me too. This was
Go
fun.
to what's your Insta? Your business Insta handle
So it's my name, Mindy Convey, and then it's like a slash inner balance.
slash inner balance. Okay, awesome.
I want to put both on there.
Mine,
That way, if people are searching, they can find me either way.
yes.
Okay.
Mine is Erin Cress underscore Duchess of Yoke. And we also have a Instagram for the podcast, which is Say Something Serious Pod on Instagram. And you'll recognize our beautiful faces in cartoon for now while we
I was
work
gonna say,
on
is there
our
any color?
logo.
I need to find our pictures that I showed on the first episode. I can't find them. I know.
Oh,
I will. I'm gonna search my house.
we'll find them. We'll find them when we're meant to.
Okay. I think if I just sit with it for a minute, I'll like remember. But